Hello, everybody. I'm Gary Gomes. I I can be contacted at Crystal Expectations or at 508-525-0001. Again, that's 508-525-0001 or at neivas@comcast.net or at garygomesg@gmail.com. I'm a Vedic astrologer. I've been a Vedic astrologer for roughly, a bit over 32 years. And I'm also a Swami of the Kriya Yoga lineage. And I'm also a Reiki master. And I also read tarot and know a variety of other things, although I don't know everything, nor do I think I do. I'm here as a Vedic astrologer. We have a new screen background, as you can see. Let me know if you like this one or you like the other one better. I'm trying to just add something new. And I'm really focusing on this one primarily because I'll be talking a little bit about eclipses and about transitions that are coming up in the sky. The first eclipse of this year. Oh, and by the way, the purpose of this broadcast is to update you on Vedic astrology, what's happening in the world in Vedic astrology, and what it means to you as a person living in the world, what it means for world events, and essentially maybe something you can do about it. So one idea or one thing that most people need to do is to prepare themselves for good times or bad times. And that's the main purpose of this broadcast, is to give you an update on the astrological weather, tie it back into the world, and also tie it back into your sun, rising, or moon sign. I use Indian astrology. I have studied Western astrology. I'm not as comfortable with Western astrology as I am with Indian. And I like Indian astrology because it's very direct. It gets right to the point. That doesn't mean to say that Western astrology doesn't. They're skilled. So essentially, whatever you focus on is what you get really, really good at. And I've spent most of my time focusing on Indian astrology. So basically, and hopefully I'm good at it. Um, and I just want to also let you know that I am planning on doing some broadcasts again with my friend Lolita Donatella Rebek. I'm also planning on doing some expanding the scope of this channel. I'm also planning on opening a school or opening group classes, and also I'm opening. I am working on a book. The book is in editing stages right now, and after the edits are done, we'll do some updates, and then we'll finally get to print. It's been something I've been working on in fits and starts for the past 20 years, and I think people will find it really, really interesting. So, and also, we are planning to do a new YouTube channel, mainly focused on music and what it means to you. So a lot of exploration of unusual forms of music, a lot of exploration of, I would say, personal favorites of mine, just to be candid, and also putting music in a larger context. And also maybe playing a little bit on my part. But this all depends on me getting into a certain space within the next few months. So for the time being, I'm limited with what I have right now. So let me just go to the charts. That's the first thing we want to go to. Also, by the way, I'd like to encourage you to subscribe to this channel. Um, we do have a goal of getting to 1,000 subscribers. That's a standard YouTube channel. I would like to monetize the channel if at all possible, and I need your help to do that. So I'm just being honest because if I can monetize, I can put more resources into the channel and give you better presentations. You will see better presentations this year. Okay, so the quality will increase in 2022, even if we're not monetized. But monetization will help it happen a lot faster. But I'm still kind of stuck for maybe another couple of months. Excuse me, and waiting to get into new space. So just bear with me while we're working on that. All right, so I'm going to show you the charts. So the other thing I want to mention is one of the reasons I have the Aurora Borealis behind me, in case you didn't know what that is that I'm going to be talking about the interactions of the sun and the moon, that is eclipses. We have 4 significant eclipses coming up in 2022. To be honest with you, the way that some people had publicized this, I was expecting these to be more a really high number of eclipses. They're really not. It's essentially one solar eclipse, April 30th, a lunar eclipse May 16th, solar eclipse October 25th, and I believe another lunar eclipse in November, around November 14th. That's usually the way they go. So you'll start with the solar, then go to the lunar. And the signs they're going to be in this year are largely Aries and Libra. And they'll tend to be affecting those signs a great deal. They'll also be affecting Aquarius and Gemini and Leo and Sagittarius, just because of certain aspectual traits of the nodes. And I had resisted this thought for a long time, but these are the only aspects that I've seen written down anywhere that make any sense to me, because the nodes essentially reach out, they grab for things. As a matter of fact, Rahu in particular makes sense because Rahu wants things. Rahu does well in Gemini because it wants things. It does well in Virgo because it and it's always connected with desire signs. Like Gemini wants to communicate. Taurus wants to own things. And so those are the signs essentially that they tend to do well in, or are considered to do well in Sagittarius and Scorpio or other signs. But there are so many signs in the classical texts that tend to that are mentioned as being home signs or own signs or locational signs for the nodes. For the north and south lunar node, the north node is responsible for eclipses of the moon, south node for eclipses of the sun. And they're essentially disturbance factors. So they can amplify certain events, they can obscure or obfuscate. It's a good 10-cent word, which means confuse. Certain events as well. Rahu in particular is in charge of panic, and Ketu is in charge of obsessive behavior or things like phobias or so they're both connected to a certain extent with mental illness, but they're also connected with the drive for success or the drive for popularity or even sometimes the South Lunar Node can produce great fame for a limited time because it's essentially like a peak in a chart. It's called a flag. So it's essentially wherever the south node is in the chart is a really important place in the chart, because the north node represents what you want to have and bring in, and the south node represents what you're pushing out, and by pushing out also what you're displaying to the world. So if a person has strong ambitions or strong activities that they want to get out, they want to accomplish, and one of these could be meditation or inner work. The other could be a way of affecting the world. Depends on the house placement of the nodes. You'll see sometimes big events happen, especially when K2 is involved, and rather catastrophic events is when K2 is involved. And like I said, it's like a big warning sign in the chart. So it's not, but it's not necessarily always evil. It's also connected with sudden changes or sudden disruptions, and sometimes these can be good. So let's say if you're having an operation and you have to get something done, that's a big change. That's also connected with Mars, but it's also a K2 phenomenon. So removal or getting rid of something you don't need, that's a K2. That's what K2 is in charge of. But it does cause a little bit of disassociation. It can seem to cause a little bit of a lack of compassion, to be truthful. So Rahu is like wanting too much, K2 is wanting too little. Okay. So we're going to look at these two eclipse charts, and we'll cover these more deeply as the eclipses approach. So these are, so we're really not looking at anything. And I'm going to get out of this and go back into it again. Let me just go here and start up again so we don't have any. All right. So I'm talking about eclipses today, and this is the chart for today. This is the chart for right now as I'm speaking to you. So we have K2, the south node, is in the first house, and Rahu, the north node, is in the seventh house. That's interesting. So let's go over here. And one of the reasons I'm talking about this in particular is because both nodes are in charge of sudden reversals. Okay. So this is especially K2. So this is the April 30th. This is fixed for universal time, which is essentially Greenwich Mean Time. And this eclipse will be manifesting in the United States about 5 hours earlier, and it will be visible in the United States. It'll be visible in North America, excuse me. And you'll see so this particular eclipse occurs. So the node is at 28 degrees. Rahu is at 28 degrees, 10 minutes. And sun and moon are at 16 degrees, 25, exactly. You see that? So that's when you can tell when an eclipse point is occurring. And this is happening right when Mars and Saturn. So Scorpio is the rising sign, at least for the eclipse point in Greenwich, England. And Mars and Saturn are in the fourth house. So this doesn't indicate some disruption, some desire for reform, or some desire for change. And the sign connected with the economies of countries is usually the 11th house and the second house, okay, because those are the house of gain, and also the 8th house, the house of other people's money. Now, one of the things you'll notice about this particular chart is there's a nice combination here. So Mars is with Saturn, so that does indicate what I would call some tightening or constricting. of the world economy. Okay, so what's happening with Russia right now in terms of the sanctions isn't going to just affect Russia. It's going to affect pretty much everybody. So, so the war in the Ukraine isn't going to just affect Russians and Ukrainians. Um, it's going to affect the global economy. It's going to affect a lot of things. And this particular combination is right on Joe Biden's logna, right on Russia's logna. It's not a good combination for these two because there'll be a certain stubbornness. Both Mars and Saturn are in fixed signs, and I don't want to just lead it all back to Russia, but these are going to be economic concerns for most of the world. Saturn aspects the eclipse point, the eclipse as well, so that's not a good sign. So I don't think you're going to see a global financial panic, but you will certainly see markets getting a little bit excited, a little bit anxious. Now, the good news is that Venus and Jupiter are almost right on top of each other right here. You see. Now, that conjunction is good. It'll be exact on May 1st. That conjunction is good. But there has to be what's called a victor in planetary war. And in this particular chart, it looks like Venus is winning planetary war, 3 degrees 46. So just barely, Venus is winning planetary war. When it passes over Jupiter, within a couple of days after that, I think you'll start to see people lose optimism over investments or lose optimism over a peaceful resolution, unfortunately, and that'll tend to turn things, I would say, a little bit downward for about. It won't start right away, but for about after the beginning of around the middle of May, when let's look at the next eclipse. Right. So the next eclipse point is okay. So this so this isn't exact, but this is close. And whenever you get this kind of problem, there'll be communication problems, and you'll start to see a little bit of a panic right before the sun passes over Rahu. Okay, so again, like I said, I'm not depicting a stock market crash. I'm depicting a lack of faith in currencies. I'm predicting essentially what I would call more potential for inflation, and all and also some violence because Mars is aspecting the sun. The moon is in Scorpio, is debilitated. That's not an optimistic placement. It's in its worst nakshatra. So this first eclipse is going to be kind of a interesting one. It's not entirely negative. I mean, if you're interested in getting rid of things or cleaning up things or starting some new activities, actually it looks pretty good. It's not a good time for starting new relationships because there'll be a lot of fuzziness about relationships, a lot of uncertainty. As a matter of fact, in general, unless your chart is really blessed with a good major planetary period, not a good time for starting new business partnerships or new relationships. But for starting charitable organizations or for starting organizations that are trying to change things, that's fine. if you're trying to do something like a partnership or trying to build a relationship, a marriage, or a long-lasting institution, there'll be a little blur of unreality connected with it. So I just want to look and see which parts of the world are going to be most affected by this. And I'm going to go into some more detail in a couple of weeks, but I just wanted to give you like a little prelude. Okay. So we're going to look for sun and moon lines. And so we have a sun line passing over British Columbia, Vancouver, roughly. And also right here in North Carolina, Virginia, Pennsylvania, New York, Ohio. So that part of the Florida, that part of the country, and down through Cuba and down through Panama, and again into Western Venezuela. I'm sorry, not Western Venezuela, Western South America, and there'll also be a Saturn line coming up over here. So there'll probably be some difficulties in Chile. I would say political difficulties or maybe even regime change. The other thing I want to point out is there are some violence lines running through Brazil. And let me just see, are there any violence lines running through the United States? No, but this does indicate a lot of discontent with the government in the United States over here. The other part we're looking at, the lines I'd be careful for during this particular eclipse are Spain and Portugal, a little bit towards France, a little bit towards Northern Africa, through Central Africa, all the way down to South Africa. And there's a Saturn line hitting like right in the middle of Africa. We don't get a lot of news from Central Africa, unfortunately, at least not in the United States. And it's my understanding that certain parts of that world right now are not doing that well. Let's see now. The other part I would look out for would be right here in China. There may be a panic or some financial problems in China over here. Maybe even some political unrest in this region of China, all the way through what used to be called Southeast Asia. So essentially, Cambodia, and Thailand and Myanmar and Vietnam. The other parts I would watch out for would be so essentially what'll happen is there'll be an event triggered by the solar eclipse. The reaction will happen about a couple of weeks later and produce worry or fallout connected with it. So I don't want to spend too much time on this, and I'll spend more time on the October 25th eclipse because I want to get back to the current chart and just advise you about some things that are coming up over the next week or so. Okay, so let's go here. All right. And we're going to go here again. And close this down. And I find refreshing it tends to make it less likely that get a black screen, but you never can tell. So let's go to the now chart. Okay, so we have K2 in the first house. All right, so I'm going to fix this. Hold on a second. and move my little picture head over there. And let me see. Let's see if I can clear my voice too, because I've been talking a little bit more than usual today. See now. And, all right, so let's go to the, okay, so we'll go to Bedford, Mass. Nothing wrong with the symbol, but Bedford, Mass is. Yeah. All right, so we still have the same rising sign because we haven't changed the time. That's the magic of that's the magic of time. And essentially, what you're doing whenever you're looking at an astrology chart is essentially you're looking at positioning, and based upon the chart position, you're isolating and asking questions about a certain event or a certain point in time. So with K2's in the first house, K2's in the first house in Libra, which is a sign connected with relationships. The Lord of Libra itself is uh, a bit weakened right now because it's in the same sign with Saturn, and it's very close to Saturn. Essentially, Venus is almost in planetary war with Saturn. It's winning right now for the time being, but around around the middle of next week, it'll be losing the planetary war, but only for a couple of days, only for about a day or so. And when I'm talking about planetary war, that's essentially a combination where two planets are within 1 degree of each other. And a planetary war is significant because essentially it turns things, the more optimistic planet will dominate the less optimistic planet if it's at lower degree. The more pessimistic planet will dominate the more optimistic planet if the more pessimistic planet is at lower degree. So essentially, one of the reasons we had the outbreak of war in Ukraine was because of this Mars Venus dance that was going on over the past few weeks. There are more complicated reasons for it than that, but I'm just giving you the astrological reasons. And essentially, that Saturn and Mars is at 21 degrees. It's not going to be a little while before Mars and Saturn catch up with each other. But there will be a Mars-Saturn conjunction around April 6th. So you should probably be aware of that and plan accordingly for that, because that can make people really short-tempered, really perfectionistic, really demanding things happen immediately exactly the way they want them to happen. So April 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th, those days are kind of fraught. The other thing is, so there'll be a frustration with things not happening quickly enough, and then there'll be a frustration with things not happening slowly enough. It'll be a really weird week for most people, and especially financially for people, it'll be kind of a difficult and stressful week. So a lot of people will feel very insecure. A lot of people feel like they don't know what's happening, and this is true not only in the United States but in countries like Ukraine, Russia, Japan, England, all around the world, India, Turkey, China. The other combination that we want to look at, though, is Venus, although it's going to be in planetary war in the early part of this week with Saturn, early around April 1st, March 31st, April 1st, it enters Aquarius, where it'll be in the same sign with Jupiter for a short while. And that particular combination should be very benevolent. It should make people more philosophical, more benign, more willing to forgive past mistakes. So that's actually a good planet. You will see some rather harsh judgments coming on, though, through people who've broken the law or broken systems. And the reason I'm saying that is because essentially Jupiter's passing through right now. Jupiter's passed through the sign, and this was when you had all the criminal activity against, or all the proceedings brought against former President Trump or President Trump. And the Venus combination will continue those, but it'll be a little bit less. I'm trying to think of the word, less punitive, but I think you'll find it kind of interesting to see what happens over the next month or so, because Venus has a way, and so do the nodes. Venus and the nodes both have a way of unveiling the truth of what happened. And I think people are going to be not necessarily surprised, but people are going to be a little bit taken off balance by the findings, because one of the things, as a planet, Venus it's not incapable of telling a lie, but it doesn't tell lies. It just doesn't. Venus is essentially, so Jupiter will take an ethical position, and it's a truthful planet, but it'll take an ethical position, and it will look for the right thing to do, and what's best for everybody, and Venus will say, that's fine, it's what's best for everybody, but what's the truth? And that's at least been my experience with charts. And Venus will essentially reveal the truth of everything that's been going on, both in terms of trade, international trade, both in terms of deposed former monarchs. So it's interesting that this particular transit is coming up when Russia is invading Ukraine, because it's actually a way of revealing the truth about former or deposed monarchs, or people who've lost power. It's a really interesting dynamic, because I think one of the things that most strikes me about it is that Venus is essentially Varna's grandchild. Varna rules Saravishak. So whatever comes out at this time will be the literal truth. It'll be, so you can trust that it's true. With Jupiter, it's not to say Jupiter's an unworthy planet, but Jupiter essentially will say, this is what everybody believes to be true, and this is what ethically people are looking for, so this is what I must do. And I think it'll be fascinating. It'll be fascinating for me to watch the dynamic, because I don't know what's true and what's not. And I'm saying that not naively, but based upon what I've observed through the past 4 years or so. I don't know who the hell has been telling me the truth and who hasn't. Okay, so essentially, it'll be it'll be a personal relief on my part. The other thing is, so that Venus-Jupiter conjunction is very brief. It will also bring some financial benefit to people. It will also give people faith in the future, because essentially Aquarius is a future-oriented sign. I don't normally use Uranus in chart interpretations. I'm not seeing it here either. Hold on a second. Let me see if I can pull it up quickly. But I'll use anything once or twice. Okay, so that should be there. I'm looking for it, but it's not showing up. I'm sorry. Hold on. Not sure why it isn't. Just do this again. Okay. Okay. All right. And okay, there it is. So Uranus is in the same sign with Rahu. Pluto is in the same sign with Saturn and Mars at 4 degrees 9 minutes. So it's close to the moon right now. Okay. So basically, uh, there are things in Western astrology called arcs of influence or arcs of, not arcs, aspectual ranges. Okay. Um, Pluto's the only planet that Pluto's close enough to be affecting um, in terms of range are perhaps uh, Moon, Mercury, and I'll talk about the Mercury in a second. And that's about it. Uranus is close to Uranus will affect nothing really. It's outside of the more conservative ranges that I use for aspects. And everything is in this Kala Sarpa Yoga that I mentioned before. So all the planets are heading towards Rahu. Okay. So so essentially, if all the planets are heading towards Rahu, that causes a lot of panic, a lot of confusion, a lot of outrage. But Mercury, so let's look at Mercury just for a second. Important planet. I'm sorry I missed it at the beginning. Mercury is the planet of communication. So there's an attempt to cover too much communication wise, which I'm probably doing today. But Mercury in the Navamsha chart is in, where is our Mercury? It's in Leo. So it's actually heading towards its exalted point. So you have this funny kind of phenomenon over the next few days in which Mercury will move in this sign, and then it'll move into Virgo over here. So you'll actually see this kind of like outspreading of communication and confused communication. And then all of a sudden it'll come into focus in terms of the way things act in the world. So what does that mean in plain English? Well, basically, you'll start to see a lot of focus on press media, and then a lot of focus um, on the press actually getting stories and reporting accurately over the next few weeks. And you can enjoy it while it lasts. It doesn't last very long, and that's because of trends, and that's because of the natural tendencies of Mercury in a chart to essentially be influenced by whoever it hangs around with. But right now, it's in the same sign with the sun. It's in combustion range, but really not tight combustion range. And like I said, this Mercury over here in Leo, which will soon become Virgo, become very sharp focused, very laser light focused. So that'll be interesting. So the press will get a lot of power over the next couple of weeks, but it'll also have to be um, very careful about what it says. Um, it'll be looking for precision and for accuracy. So does this have an effect on the economy? Yeah. Does it have an effect on politics? Yeah. I mean, I think you'll start to see the economy um, start to come together a little bit over the next month or so. But again, we're heading for that wall that I spoke about in April and May. And and the same is true for the government, because or the government, and like I said, governments in general around the world. It's not just the United States government that's in trouble with K2 and Aries. Okay. So hopefully that stayed. Oh boy. We had a little bit of a blackout there. I apologize. All right. So let's look at where these effects will be taking place. I might have to redo this tomorrow. I'm not sure. We'll see. Rahu is passing over close to Mars. And let me do this again. Stop in the share. I'll start the share again. All right. So there can be some trouble over the Hawaiian Islands. Jupiter is passing through California right now. I think you'll start to see, and also through Oregon and Washington, and a little bit into Nevada, and a little bit into Montana, and you'll also see a Mercury line going through here. Now, what this means, there's a Rahu line passing by Hawaii, so Rahu's going to be affecting Hawaii a little bit adversely. Venus and Saturn, so there'll be problems with supplies, problems with water in Hawaii. There'll be problems with ethical standards in California and throughout this region of the Southwest. There'll be problems with, so you have a descending Mercury line coming through here, so there'll be some confusion over reporting in New Mexico, down into Mexico. And I think one of the things I'm a little bit worried about is Mexico being a little bit hurt over the next couple of weeks because of this combination over here, essentially the government just taking a lot of control. And the moon is passing over Rhode Island, Massachusetts, pretty much affecting the entire East Coast. So you'll see some kind of depression or anxiety in that part of the country. That'll continue down through Venezuela and pretty much all through South America. And there's this Rahu line passing up through Brazil too, and through Guyana, and all the way over to Sweden. I'm sorry, Norway, Sweden, and Finland, all the way into Russia. The other lines that are happening here is Jupiter's going to be close to Iceland. Mercury's also going to be close to Iceland, and that'll give them some problems with their media and with communications. And also, the sun is hitting Ireland, and that'll give some problems with their leadership as well. And also UK and Portugal and Western Africa. We have a moon line running all the way through Turkey. So this doesn't look damaging to Turkey, but it does look like there'll be problems with local governments, especially in Western Turkey. And also some panic in in Eastern Turkey, my apologies, Eastern Turkey, and Egypt and Saudi Arabia. And some conflict possibly in Saudi Arabia going up through Iran. There's a lot of activity in this part of the world. So I wouldn't be surprised to see Iran get a little bit feisty or a little bit aggressive. The other part of the world I would have you look at is the moon line running through China. China's on lockdown right now from COVID, I believe, again. And there are Mercury and Jupiter lines going through India. So again, this will give some difficulties with communications. Um, Jupiter, Mercury, and the Sun are passing over New Zealand, so you'll see more government control happening in New Zealand. Media, and we're talking about the masses. The moon is essentially the planet you want to talk about for the masses. So essentially, if you're going to see the masses affected adversely, it'll be in China, eastern United States, down through South America, and through here, this part of the world over here. So again, we know there's a war going on over there. That's pretty obvious, but there'll be a spillover effect in Turkey and in Iran and all the way into the regions around that part of the world. It's a Sun-Mercury combination I've already spoken about. Jupiter combination coming on close to Australia, so there'll be some kinds of judicial hearings and panic in Australia. So the Australian economy will probably be hit a little bit during this time span. Now, again, these aren't earth-shakingly horrible conditions. So what I'm saying, some sort. I mean, as soon as a lot of the Saturn conjunctions clear up, you'll see a lot of relief in these areas. But Saturn's still going to continue to dominate the chart for about another 9 months or so, 9 to 10 months or so. So essentially, it's just best to be prepared that there'll be limited supplies and limited groceries and things like that. So let's go back to the this chart over here. And so Aries will have a lot of dissatisfaction, a lot of boredom with relationship life, a lot of feeling of futility. But career-wise, they'll be doing great. They'll be working a lot. He'll have a lot of associations with friends, but his confidence will be down a little bit until the middle of April. But in April, it'll become very famous. For Taurus, Taurus has no planets in the seventh house, which is good. Although there is some slowness or dullness in relationship life with this combination over here. Jupiter's in the 10th, so it'll probably be doing well financially and career-wise. And Gemini has no planets in the seventh house. It has Ketu in the 5th, so there'll be problems with communications with children. And also some problems with Saturn aspecting Mercury, so this sign will feel a little bit down or a little bit depressed. It'll need to get out a lot to cheer itself up. For career-wise, though, again, things are going really, really well. It's really driven career-wise, so that's good. For for Cancer, we have all these planets in the seventh house. Cancer's had a really tough time of it over the past couple of years. Is still in for about a good 9 months of aggravation, but at least you'll get the malefics out of that sign by around mid-April, or you'll get Mars out of that sign by mid-April, so there'll be less tendency to fight. Venus will be out of that sign by the end of this week, so that'll be good too. And there'll be good possibilities for financial windfalls for this sign after that point. Career-wise, again, doing well monetarily. For Leo still has Jupiter in the seventh house with Venus going there. It'll improve its financial situation. It'll also improve its opportunities for relationships. Saturn, Mars, in the sixth house, so still some problems with enemies, still some problems with home life. That won't go away soon. And I think also from the chart, Sun is in the eighth house, so confidence level is a little bit down. Rahu's in the ninth, so that's a little bit tough for it's tough for bosses, tough for people who are bosses. For I gotta check the time. For uh, Virgo, Virgo has Sun and Mercury, so there's a lot of focus on relationship for the sign. A lot of communications problems, so a lot of misunderstandings. Jupiter being in now this planet won't stay in the sign very long, so you can just relax about that. But Jupiter being in the fifth house or in the sixth house, it'll make it feel like relationship partners and enemy. Venus will also move into that sign, so they'll tend to make relationship patterns a little bit tougher. But patterns with children will improve, and also overall luck will improve. Rahu in the eighth, waiting for financial rewards that just don't seem to come. For Libra, Libra has K2 in the first house, so it's very intuitive, very psychic, very aggravated right now. Rahu's in the seventh house, a lot of dissatisfaction with a relationship partner, a lot of unhappiness in relationship life. Just feeling like they can do something better, but again, Rahu tends to make things look brighter on the other side, so you have to be cautious about that. For home life, looks pretty good. Mars is in Capricorn, it's getting things done home-wise. Jupiter's in the fifth house, luck is fairly good. And Sun is in the sixth house and gives a lot of emphasis on self-improvement. Scorpio, Lord of the first is in the third, along with Venus and Saturn, so there's a lot of ambition, a lot of drive for the sign this month. Jupiter's in the fourth house, luck is pretty good. Sun is in the fifth house with Mercury. Again, that's a good indicator of luck and intelligence. Rahu's in the sixth house, have to watch out for health issues. Not much more to it than that. Career-wise, this sign will have more expectations placed upon it, and there'll be some confusion with friendships. For Capricorn, for Sagittarius, Sagittarius has 4 planets in the second house, so it should be good for money, but it'll require the money to be pretty worked hard for. That's really lousy English, but I apologize. Jupiter's in the third house. Again, good diplomatic skills for the sign right now. Sun and Mercury are in the fourth house, so that gives basically good but confusing home life. And Rahu's in the fifth, so kids are a little bit difficult to deal with. For Capricorn, a lot of planets in Capricorn this month. So that tends to make things a little bit, it makes things feel like they're falling apart a little bit, like nobody's really in control of anything. And that's Saturn, so essentially it's more like a dictatorial kind of a position, and we're seeing dictatorial actions happen pretty much around the world, right? That'll loosen up, but early next year. And Jupiter's in the second house, good for money. Sun is in the third house, good for courage. And Rahu is in the fourth house, so it's going to make it a little bit difficult to communicate with family. K2 is in the 10th house, so again, not much career recognition for this sign. For Aquarius, we're almost in the home stretch here. For Aquarius, we have Jupiter in the first house, good for money, okay, because the 11th house and the second house are strong. And Rahu's in the third house, so this sign will have a lot of courage this month. It will also have a lot of expenses. That's pretty much true. Finally, and career-wise, supervisor wise, or in terms of work opportunities, seems to lack clear direction or lack clear purpose for a little while, unless it focuses on some kind of spiritual goal. So it's really good for meditating for this sign. And also supervisors or people, they may even take a different direction spiritually or religiously. For Pisces, we have Mercury in Pisces, Lord of the seventh house. So this planet will be focused very strongly on, or this time will be focused very strongly on relationship and educational matters. There'll be an overextension of things you want to do. That's the only drawbacks for this particular combination. So just make sure you rein yourself in a little bit. It's temporarily good for money. The Lord of the first house is in the 12th house. So again, a lot of focus on spiritual life. Gains, but only with really hard work. And K2's in the 8th house. So this will give unexpected delays or defeats in terms of financial resources. Okay, that's it for this week. I want to thank everybody who's been showing up and supporting this channel and this show so far. We've had some technical glitches. I hope that little blackout I got in the middle doesn't screw up this recording, but if it does, I'll just do another one. If it doesn't, then this is what you'll see. And I want to wish everyone a good week and good luck. And I love you all very much. And namaste. Please remember to subscribe. If you like it, like it. If you like, let me know what you think about. Let's see. Let me know what you think about the new background, whether you like it, whether you like the old background better. Okay. Or if you want to see me experiment with other backgrounds. Okay. Thank you very much. Have a great week. Bye, everyone.